For anybody who attended the Red Team briefing, I've added a couple of things that I want to highlight to this one. Presentation is a bit longer than usual, but I hope you'll find it well worth it. Just some exciting announcements, and in a way, sort of announcements and reminders of what's coming up. So I've started the recording. If you could tell me, type into the chat window your city, country, and organization that you are affiliated with, please. Let's see what we've got tonight. So in this case, I'm Bern, Switzerland. All right, Brad from Colorado Springs, Colorado, USA. Meyer Kumar from Jerusalem, MDA. Oslo, Norway, Red Cross. All right. Okay, Hannah from Berlin. Aisa from Tunisia. Giuseppe from Bergamo. Next to Milan, we learned. Daria, also from Israel, MDA Afula. Okay, great. Let's get started then. And Radu from Boyle, Alberta Associated Ambulance. All right. So this is week 3, discussion group, 21st of June. We're now more than halfway through the course, through the exercise. Reminder, this is part of the Healthcare in Danger project. It's being led by Norwegian Red Cross and by the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Society with the Geneva Learning Foundation. So let me start with the most exciting announcements. If you've made it this far, you may have an interest in the fact that we are running a new and different exercise in September. The orientation will take place in the last week of August, and we know that's sort of in some countries that's a sort of between, many people may still be on vacation and so on. Anyway, you can see the dates here, and I'm sharing this for 2 reasons. One is, if you've made it this far, we're very interested in having you participate and join the next one. And we would like to challenge you to get just one of your colleagues to buddy up with you so you can help them help them through the stuff that one needs to learn to, exactly how this new kind of learning works. And so you can go through the course together next in September. So that's the challenge. If you would like to take me up on that and are ready to commit to coming back to the September course with a buddy, let me know in the chat and I'll go on to the next announcement. So if you've got your calendar with you, whether it's on the computer or whether it's on paper, I think this was in the announcements when you originally signed up, but I don't think we've ever mentioned it, and we really should have, and that's on me. Wednesday, 12th of July, we want to do something very special, a commencement event. So basically to celebrate and present all of the projects that will have been produced and all of the sharing of experience and expertise that has occurred over the last few weeks. So we'd like to make this, there will be some pomp and circumstance. Of course, it will be online, but there's no reason why we shouldn't get a little bit formal to recognize people who have been working very hard in the course. So there will be 3 things I want to highlight. One is, we'd really like, we have a sort of room capacity of 200, and we really like, again, to challenge you to see if we can fill the room with your colleagues and your families. So if you'd like to invite your spouse, your partner, your relatives to come see what you have done, that is just like commencement events when one finishes university in many countries. Of course, this is a very short course, but hey, it's also something very new, so we thought it might be worth it to gather together. So in addition to receiving your certificate at the commencement events, in addition, we're going to be inviting participants to present their work, and if you'd like to volunteer to do that, let us know. So that's so the 12th of July. Some of you may already be away on vacation, that's fine, but we're hoping that, I'd just like to remind you, wherever you are, as long as you have a way to connect to the internet, you would be able to participate in this. So even being on you can do this from the beach or from wherever you may you may be. Now, next
Can
one,
I
and I'm sure he would.
ask a question about that? Can I
Sure,
ask
yeah,
you
please.
what time is it planned? It doesn't say what time. It just
So,
said the date, but what time?
yeah, so we're thinking of keeping the times that everyone's familiar with, but there may be a change, which is why I want to say the times will be announced. We've got the day, but we'll announce the time really soon, and we realize people have to make plans and so on. All right?
Okay, thank you.
All right. So now, I think he would, this is not necessarily his favorite picture, but it's the only one I could find on short notice. So this is Michael Bradfield. He was one of the people who finished the course in last October. He's a critical care paramedic from the UK, currently working in Lebanon with Lebanese Red Cross. He joined the A team of volunteers and has made a number of contributions to support to support other participants, support his peers. So I've invited him to facilitate the week 4 session. We would have done it this week, but he's actually on duty, so yes, we have to wait until the last week of the course. So he'll be doing what what I do, so just doing the presentation and then facilitating the discussion, and of course bringing his expertise and experience to the group to share with you. So just to go into where we are with the exercise, we're in week 3. As we said initially, it's a very structured process. So this week is entirely focused on peer review. You've got an upcoming deadline on Friday. And I do want to share, I do have a concern at this stage, is that right now, and you'll see the actual numbers, many of you have not started to submit your peer reviews. We know who you are, and but we'll be sharing only the names of people who have started. But we do want to encourage you to to not delay any further with that. So conversely, what you've been incredibly good at, and I really want to thank you for taking the time to complete the feedback survey. So if any of you haven't seen it, just go look in the community updates. You'll find it there. First of all, we know figuring out a new platform, figuring out a new kind of learning is a challenge. So we were really pleased to report that after 2 weeks, these are the, so this is what you're telling us. Most of you are now comfortable with Scholar. And of course, anybody having an issue, a problem, by now you should know where and how to get help. Yes. Happy to assist you with the peer review stuff we're doing this week, or with next week, which will be about revising your work and submitting a final version. So on the support you're receiving, you're very pleased to see this as well, because this is our job as the course team, is really to support you, help you progress and succeed in this exercise. In terms of motivation, this is you. This is how highly motivated you are to actually complete the work in this exercise. So these are amazing numbers from many courses, many different kinds of audiences, and consistently different kinds of work contexts and so on. And even for the humanitarian context, these are very, very high numbers and a high level of motivation. So I'd like to really commend you on this. So on the feedback, we also asked you some questions. So this is some of what you told us. It's nice to get in touch with colleagues worldwide. The work is challenging, but I enjoyed doing it. An amazing experience, good tools, great team. I look very hard for really negative feedback, because usually we have a couple of curmudgeons or people who have sort of critical comments that can help us improve, and couldn't find any. So if you haven't completed the feedback survey and you're particularly cross about something, we need that to improve. Yes, and of course there'll be another opportunity at the end of the entire exercise. Once you've gotten the full Scholar process and have gone back to your work and submitted a final version, and gotten to engage further with the community, then that's when we'll be asking you for your feedback again. So on satisfaction, again, you can see, yes, most of you seem to be yes, pretty happy with what's happening with the course. On the course difficulty, we've got a good spread. We really lightened the load compared to the October 2016 exercise in terms of community activities, because we realized people really needed to focus on their Scholar project and creator. So we've sort of tone down what's going on in community. Some of you have said, oh, is that all we do in community then? But I also want to emphasize that now that you've learned to use the community, so to post your own update, to ask questions of your colleagues, to put up, share a challenge, you're free to do so. You do not need to wait until the course team actually does this, but I realize at this point you're all busy with peer review. In terms of the amount of time you're spending on the, each week, so basically over 2/3 of you are spending more, are spending just about the right amount of time, what we calibrated. So, that's also heartening to see. So that's the feedback we're getting so far. If you haven't completed the feedback form, please do so. This really helps us, demonstrate the value of the course, find specific issues where we need to work on to improve, and we really see this as a participatory process. We want this kind of exercise to serve your needs, to actually be helpful to you in your work, and also to contribute to the Healthcare in Danger project, so that when we need you to tell us if we're on the right track or where you would like to see this going. Just a reminder again, and this is a critical point. This is why I'm not entirely happy with where we are at, because we're midweek with peer reviews. Now, as you'll see, many of you have yet to start. So the reason we said no extensions is because on Friday, or actually on Saturday morning in Geneva, everyone will be receiving their peer reviews. They will be released to everyone, so you will get to see what your colleagues are telling you about your initial draft project. Now, in principle, you're supposed to have 3 people's views, and that's really important because out of the 3, you may get 2 good ones. Maybe you'll get 3 good ones. That's what we can hope, given the quality of the participants involved. But in some cases, you at least need to complete your reviews. Your fellow participants, colleagues need your feedback in order to progress. This is in fact the whole point of the course. So that's in fact the entire checklist for week 3. Have you completed your 3 peer reviews? If you haven't, then please, after this this blue team discussion group, go back to Scholar, take the time to look at the instructions if you haven't been through those yet. It's not that complicated. If you made it this far and figured out how to submit your project and so on, and how to post an update in community, it's no more complicated than that, but there is no shortcut. You do have to think about what you're doing. So, and you do have to both give feedback on what the person has written. Do you have any? Does it leave you with questions? What else do you want to know? How can they improve? What do you think of their local, of their good practice or local solution? Have they identified the right kind of security risk? Have they clearly explained what is the current preparedness and response? And then you also need to share your experience. Would that local solution, a good practice, work in your context? Why or why not? What is your good practice for that security risk? Is it the same as what they've suggested? Is it different? What is the difference? We want that peer review to be a fairly comprehensive process. So I'd like to now turn to the chat room and ask you what is wrong with this picture. There are at least, well, there's more than one thing wrong with this. Can anybody tell me what is wrong in this? If somebody, if first we can, figure out what this is. Can anybody tell me what we're looking at in the presentation? Okay, and Robert says he hasn't started yet, so definitely want to encourage you to get started. And okay, Peter says no explanation. Radu says there's no assessment, and the comment is too brief and non-specific. Yep, so that's it. Clear and well done is a compliment. So if you want to compliment someone and make them feel good, maybe you can tell them their project is clear and well done, but it doesn't actually help them make it better. So here we're just looking at structure and presentation, but even for that, is there a paragraph that's too dense that can be broken up? Are there images that the person could add? We've seen people doing sort of wonderful stuff describing events and scenes and problems. Okay, Edwin Leon says the rating is 0 and it says clear and well done. Yes. So a few people, especially those working with particularly buggy versions of Internet Explorer, are not able to move the sliders up and down. You should be able to move the slider in the feedback when you're doing a peer review. So if you're having that problem, contact us. Do not submit your peer review because submission is final. There's no way to unsubmit your peer review. and that's done to make you really consider carefully before, have you done the best job that you can before you submit. So I just want to highlight that. And now to tell you, so just an update on how people are doing with the Creator Project. So of the Spanish speakers, which is a group of 39 people, we've got 10 people who made it to to week 3. So who've actually submitted projects, including our 2 team leaders, Christina and Cesar. We've got 28 English speakers out of 48, so that's a respectable result. There are many names of, there are many ambulance team volunteers who completed the October exercise, who also took the time to create a new project this year, so that's much appreciated. And yes, so that's where we stand. And then the most amazing language group of the 3 is, of course, the group of Arabic speakers with 86 participants, and 71 of them have submitted a project in Creator, did it on time. So I want to particularly, especially commend the work of the Arabic speakers. Some of them obviously are working in countries where they face challenges with respect to internet access, but also security challenges that may make it more difficult than in other places to actually, work on a course and develop a project like this. And I especially want to commend the leadership of all the language team leaders. So yes, and in particular the work of Hannah, who I believe is in the session tonight. So really, not everybody makes it. This is not a course where you get a certificate just for showing up or just for taking a quiz. And as you can see, this is quite selective. If you made it this far, you can be proud of this, but you are only halfway through. Peer review is the next challenge, and this is what I want to come to next. So of the 48 who are working in English, only 12 as of this morning have submitted peer reviews. So some of you may be working on it, but if you're not, get started right away. Don't delay it. To do a good review, to really help a colleague, is going to take you time. So make sure you have time, in the next 2 days, which is not very, it's not very long. In order for your project to be considered finished, you have to make it to week 4. So just having made it this far, that was only halfway through. Half empty or half full is up to you, depending on whether you're an optimist or pessimist. Out of the amazing, or especially amazing Arabic team, only 18 out of the 71 have already submitted reviews. And for the Spanish, only the team leaders so far have submitted reviews. So yes, all right. And Mohammed asks for the previous slide for the Arabic. Yeah. So you can download the presentation if you want to look at those names. If we missed anybody, this was the case this morning. It's around 6:30 a.m. So if you worked on it since then, you won't see your contribution. But this is only in progress. The deadline is Friday, so you do have a little bit more time to work on it. So this is where we stand, and there are enough people attending, and actually very pleased to see this many of you in the in this discussion group. We now get to the participant presentation. So we have less time than we did in previous weeks. What we'd like to hear about is really, for those of you who have started peer review, what have you been learning about from doing, from reviewing the work of other participants in the course? So first, we'd like you to tell us, in just one of the works that you're looking at. Yes. Yeah. Yes, and I see a message from Hadir, who says, "I want to seize the opportunity to thank Hannah for the great support," and that's. Yes, that's great. There's some amazing leadership, both from the team leaders, from the volunteers, and from you participants in the course, connecting across distance, with complete strangers and managing somehow to work together and have a useful exchange, despite everything that separates or divides us. So tell us about one of the works, just one. What's the best practice or local solution that the person has has developed in their project? What have you learned about the author's security risk? And then really the question, let me maybe would this practice or solution work for you? Why or why not? And then what advice have you given to the author? We actually want to know what, how are you helping your colleague with your peer review? So I'd like to ask for a volunteer to to step up, and let me see if I can now just share my just share my screen, or just share the presentation instead. Yeah, I don't know if that's big enough for you that you can see the questions, but do we have a volunteer? If you can use the raise hand feature, otherwise we'll look at who's in the session. Okay, Peter Kume, yeah. And you'll have to tell me how to correctly pronounce your name, Peter. Welcome. And so, yeah. So are you Peter Cooney with 3 O's in the community? You'll need to unmute yourself in order for us to be able to hear you. And for William, Giuseppe, Christophe, and Brad, would love to get your attention. Yeah. So Peter, you need to unmute yourself in order for us to hear you.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, welcome. And tell us where you're connecting from,
Thank you for
Peter.
I'm connecting one-on-one from Kenya, Nairobi City. This is where I stay now. I'm able to review for the death on the ambulance, and I've already identified a couple of solutions from that presentation. And what I've given out for this project to the person who wrote it is that he or she should not leave the patient inside the ambulance, as I show in the presentation. What I realized is that after leaving the patient in the ambulance and went out to escort another nurse to the facility, the patient died inside the ambulance, and this I notified that this is one of the mistakes the project writer did. So the measures I took, or rather to the local solution, is that I encouraged him that the protocols does not allow every NAMT or other any medic to leave the patient in the ambulance alone and go to the inside any building. Then I've seen that the ambulance, inside the ambulance, according to what I read, is that the risk for this project, what I realized is that it was not very much portrayed, although I used a lot of information to elaborate on measures on how to do, so that in for the second time or that time, one of the crew should not get up kind of a situation. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. Yes. Yeah. All right. Let me turn to follow-up questions or comments on Peter's what Peter has shared. Let me see and I did start the timer late, but you still have about a minute left. Yeah. All right. Okay. Oh, Fred actually has his hand raised. Yes, Fred.
Yeah, I was just wondering if maybe I didn't get it clear, but what did you try in the coursework that you were reviewing? Something related to risks, specifically, so either a threat or a violent act or aggressive behavior, gun, any instance where someone was trying to intentionally harm the paramedics or the patients. Thank you.
Yes, Peter, can you respond to that, please?
Come up again, I can't hear you, please.
Yeah. So Fred's question is, if in the projects that you reviewed, if there was really a clear, security risk of, an intentional threat of violence to the ambulance crew, clearly identified. One of the biggest sort of areas of confusion has been some people have identified a risk that's an accidental risk, not something that is an intentional threat.
Thank you. Now, the risk which I came across is that the relatives of the patient got free, and then they began like fighting the crew because they began telling the crew that he has caused the fault of the death of their patient. And as part of the risk is that these people, being the relatives of the patient, can be volatile. Rather, they tend to be volatile to the medics, of which they could not understand, although the doctors came and they tried to explain to them. But before they realized that it was too late. So as a risk, one part of the risk there is that you can be assaulted or rather abused by the client or rather by the relatives according to the project and according to what they expect, and that the patient alone, leaving the patient alone, they noted is that, or rather they thought it is one of the cause of the death of their patient. And now, as a medic, for their safety, the relatives began assaulting them, abusing. According to me, if the doctors did not intervene, then these medics could be assaulted in one way or the other.
Okay, thank you, thank you, Peter.
The question answered?
Yeah, so let's we have time for one more presentation. So let's have a volunteer. If you can use the little raise hand icon to indicate that you're ready to present. Otherwise, yes, you know how this works. We'll just pick someone who's who's currently online. So let me see if we've got, from the English. Okay, we've got, let's hear from Salah, who presented, I believe, you in week 1. If you'd like to unmute yourself, and we have, we'll go a bit over, but we'll give you 3 minutes to share what you've been learning from peer review. Salah, you need to unmute yourself first. All right. Okay, let's go to Christophe. So you basically, where you see a red microphone, you just click on that and it should turn green. Okay, let's go to Christophe then. Christophe, we spoke before the session, so let's... So
you're pretty sure my microphone works?
Yes, yeah. Hey, you got to go with what works. So let me start the timer, and we'd love to hear what you've been learning from peer review.
Okay, I'm just reviewing the report about Belgium. Some consequences after bombing attack, and yeah, because terrorist attacks these days are very widespread. I guess one reason for this course is also the rising of terrorist attacks. So after one of these attacks in March 2016 in Belgium, the government made some concepts set up some concepts, and they set up MARCH protocol, M-A-R-C-H, which I didn't only heard about it. It stands for M, massive bleeding, A for airway, R, respiration, C, circulation, and H for hypothermia, because massive bleeding, tension, pneumothorax, and hypothermia, that are three main reasons in severe trauma cases that might kill the patient. So the government set up some of the tactical kits for such attacks. Because, many look to Israel, how they are treating patients in Israel. And so the writer says it as a local solution. Many people have the kits now, but they are not used to use them, and you only can use them in trainings. And this person is thinking about setting up a video tutorial. So I think which is generally a good idea, but nothing replaces the practical work. So my advice would be set up, maybe create easy ways to train such situations on a practical, how you can do this practical. So this would be my 2.5 minutes. Whoa, time flies.
Yeah, thanks, Christoph. Yeah, so we are out of time, so we're not going to. If you'd like to follow up with Christoph, please do it in the Scholar community, or you might get away with typing something quickly in the chat. But thank you thank you and Peter for the for this presentation. Now, if you need to leave, we are done with the mandatory 30-minute group discussion. I am going to stay online to answer any technical issues, and I'm actually going to show you what you're going to be doing next week, which is how to receive your peer reviews, make sense of them, and then how to proceed with revisions, and show you a couple of tips and tricks in Creator. So if you'd like to stay for the, let's say, the sneak preview, if you have any specific technical support questions, there's a few people who started the wrong project. There's various kinds of things we're used to seeing. They're very few in number, so it's very easy to just take if you're having a look at your individual problem, we can have you share your screen, and then fix it. So if you have a problem, do raise your hand. I'm just going to share my entire screen now, so you can see a project from last year. And so, can you confirm that you can actually see my screen here? So this was actually. Yeah, can someone confirm that you can actually see my screen? Yes, okay, thank you, Robert and Radu. Okay, Romeo says, I'm the one who's learning the protocol from outside the normal environment since I was here in Warzone. Okay, so that's interesting learning from a peer review. All right, so here is a completed work from the October course. Keep in mind it was a different assignment. Last year people developed case studies around an incident of violence and then analyzed it to make sense of it. And this year, in this June exercise, we're actually doing we're actually focused on local solutions and good practice against a security risk of intentional violence. So don't try to compare the two on that level. But so what you're doing this week is you're working in here, right? Review work. And so yes, you're now familiar with this. Or you should be, or you will be. Given the number of people who have yet to start their reviews, I'm just going to give you a quick refresher, the same thing I did last week. And feel free to ask me any questions you have in the chat. I'm keeping an eye on it. Here we have, your task is, first of all, to go to notifications. You will find notifications asking you to review work. Let me see if, yeah, so-called a feedback request, yes, and you can see some of my feedback requests from other Scholar, yes, projects and communities. You'll have one and it says view work. So this is what you're doing in week 3, and this is for those people who have not started yet. So, so when you click on view work, you get taken to a new work, which is not your own. Now, in order to navigate, you'll end up with 4 works, yours and the 3 that you have to peer review. So as you can see here in work, yes, you can see I have many different works in my case. And so here, if I want to find my own, yes, I click on it and it loads in Creator on the left-hand side. So that's how you navigate between the two. The other way is to go back to your notifications and to find the ones for the 3 projects you're reviewing and the project that you are, you know, that you wrote. Now, what do you do with this? So first of all, you have to read it carefully and think about it. There's no shortcut to this. There's no way you can, yes, you're trying to understand somebody who might be in a different country. You might be in peace, they might be in war, vice versa, as Romeo just highlighted. Sis says, thank you. I need to go to finish my peer review. You're free to go, man. If it can help you finish by the deadline. You've done this already too. So read it. And you think about, yes, you can go back and look at the assignment. Yes, these are the questions you want to be asking about their work. Have they covered all this? And have they covered stuff that, you know, does this leave you with questions? Is there stuff you can't make sense of? If so, you need to tell them what that is. All right. And then you have the ratings. So you also need to consider the ratings. Would this one be, you know, 0 because there's really poor structure and presentation? This can be the case also if somebody, you know, ran out of time and still decided to submit their project. Or is it an excellent, all the way up to an excellent structure and presentation? And what does excellence mean? Well, this is in the assignment, and this of course is the same thing that you got in the PDF download of the assignment. So you want to go through here, and let's say on the general information, so, you know, something similar to the description of your security risk. Yes, you want to consider this. You know, you've just read it. You have it in mind. Were you able to make sense of the context in this one? You know, and then here you have to do 2 things. You have to give the rating, you know, between a 0 and a 4, and then in the second step is actually the most important. You have to explain the rating you're giving. So if I give a 4 and it's excellent, yes. And I say, good job, that's not going to be helpful to the author who wrote it. Even if it's excellent and outstanding, you can share then, you know, around from your own experience. How is what they're describing, their context, how is it different from yours? Or how is it the same? Would their local solution work in your own work, yes, or is it really different? And if so, what is different? That's what we're trying to get at, and that's where you can share also your advice, your suggestions, you know, even if the work is excellent. And conversely, someone who's done a really poor job, you know, and you just think, oh my God, why, you know, what's wrong? You know, think about, you know, what you do in your job. You know that if you just tell people up front, yes, you're doing really badly, that's probably not going to help them progress. Yes, in general, let's say. So you're going to have to explain this rating. Why are you giving them a 1 out of 4? Yes, and so the explanation is the important part. You don't need to write, you know, a novel, but you do need to write enough. You know, put yourself in the other person's shoes where if you receive this feedback, is this something you can work with? Does this give you something that you can go back to your project and add something or change something that's going to make it better? Because that's exactly what you're going to get in week 4. So starting on actually Saturday, this is what's going to happen. You're going to go back to your Creator project in the 2 ways that I just showed you. Either you go back to notifications and you look for the original notification to start your work. That's one way to go back. The other way to go back is to just go to Works here in Creator. Yes, and here you can see all of the works that you're working with, and you want to go to your own work, and there for the first time you'll see here results of the reviews. And the first thing you see is a summary. So in this case, for structure and presentation, this project got a 3 out of 4. For part 1, a 3.33 and a 3 out of 4. All right. So now, again, I said the rating is not the important part. So here, you're actually going to be able to go in this. You won't see the names because we've made it anonymous. I see the names because I'm the administrator. You will see reviewer 1, reviewer 2, reviewer 3. This is from last year's course, so if you're comfortable showing it. So let's go look at Jose. And Jose said, I think a good structure and presentation, no beforehand responsibilities. Only it is not clear which is the EMS. Yes, and so if I'm receiving this review in week 4, okay, so I need to go back to my work and figure out who's the EMS, why this reviewer didn't get it, and it could be that they just weren't paying attention. If that's the case, then I don't have to change anything. But if I realize that I need to clarify that, then I need to go back to my work, yes, and edit the latest version, and make the changes that are called for. Now, the interesting thing is you might find that your reviewers disagree with each other. I don't know if that's the case. Let's see if that's the case here. Okay, they've all given 3s on this, but obviously they haven't done this consistently throughout. So a 4 out of 4 on general information for part 1. Let's see what Eunice gave. Okay, so Eunice gave a 3 out of 4. So you might want to compare notes between the 2 reviewers and say, well, why did this person give me a 3 and the other gave me a 4? What's going on? So that's just, and that again is going to take you time. It may seem pretty simple, but actually, especially in some cases, if you have severe differences between ratings and explanations, it's your job, it's your responsibility, it's your work, so you have to figure out what it means for what you're going to do to revise. Because in week 4, you're not just going to be reading the reviews, just to find out what people said. Your task is to go back to that project, even if you got 4s from everyone on everything, and actually figure out how to make it better. Yes. So Peter, unfortunately, no, I cannot resend peer review that. So you can start on them again. We emphasized how important it was to make sure you watch the videos and got peer review right before submitting. I understand you had a technical issue, so that's but that's what I have to say, unfortunately, at this stage. But again, in September, what would be great is some of the if some of you who who participate in September can sort of give tips and heads up to new participants about some of these issues that that you encountered. So yeah, Peter, I'm sorry, I wish I had a better answer for you, but because of, in some cases, so not in our course, but in some cases there are very strict legal requirements about what ultimately is going to get certified or people are going to get a grade for. So that's why some things in Creator and in Scholar are final. It's because there's a legal requirement for them to be. Otherwise, imagine if students and teachers could just sort of change peer reviews and change their projects and so on, however they want it. So that's the reason. In our case, it's not so helpful. I wish I could help you, but that's what I have to. That's the answer I have to say. So let's look at. We saw one. So let's see. Here we had a 3 out of 4. 3 out of 4. Yeah. So where was the? Yeah, so on the incident description here, Jean-Marie gave a 2 out of 4. So let's see what he says. And this is also about practicing, like how good are you at giving feedback to people so that they can actually improve. That's also what's at stake here. So the incident description is clear. We understand the dilemmas you faced, what was your decision, and who was involved in the situation. But the text could be shorter and more focused on the incident, okay? And then this reviewer also has an opinion that the description of the emergency department could be included in part 1. So this in a discussion group, or my sound is cut off. Okay. All right. Okay. Yep. Okay. I knew this would happen at least once during the session. So again, I was making. Thanks for letting me know in the chat. Again, your task is to take is to schedule time to next week to read your reviews and make sense of them and really make an action plan. What are the points in here that you're going to fix or improve in your work? Yes. So you might do this on paper, you might do this on a computer, however you decide what you're going to do. And then the other question is, when are you going to do it? Find the slot in your calendar, put it in so that you don't get somebody else coming into the office, or that you make sure you can work trouble-free at home, because you're going to go back to your project. And the last thing I will show you, and the 13 of you will be, will have an advantage over the other participants, is this question of versions. Now, we told you in the video tutorials, in the instructions, do not touch, you do not need to save. Creator saves automatically. You do not need to save as new version. Many of you, and this is the case even more so last year when we weren't being as explicit, created versions anyway. Now the danger is that, for example, if you've bookmarked your creator project, or there's several other sort of ways in which you can end up looking at an old version of your project. So before you go back and work on it, make sure that you go to versions, so that's under about this work, and then versions, and make sure you're looking at the most current version. All right, and then if you do not see reviews here, under feedback, reviews, results, you want to go and check, make sure that you're looking at the version that actually got reviewed. So any issue you have here, and again, when you're editing your creator project, you do not need to save, and there will be a submit for publication, I think it's called, on the second pass in week 4. You do not click on that button until Friday, or until you're sure that you've done the best job that you can. And what we can see in the analytics is really how much are you going to change in your project. If you're changing just a few words, but you got some low ratings and people telling you very specific things that they believe could improve your work, we're going to be looking at your work closely to determine, well, did you actually in week 4 put time in to improve your project, or did you just sort of wash your hands of it and say, I gotta go. And I want to emphasize that your responsibility with the project is, to yourself, to your colleagues, to the organization you're affiliated with, but it's also for the Healthcare in Danger project, where identifying local solutions, good practice, improving your ability, our ability to sort of correctly understand what's going on, what are the kinds of challenges you're facing. The more your commitment helps you sort of, the better you do that, the work you're doing here, the better it will help us and the partners involved in the exercise make sense of what you're telling us, the challenges you're facing, and hopefully improve both the quality and the support and the experience for the upcoming exercise, but also be a useful input for the Healthcare in Danger project. So this is quite a lot of responsibility. It's a small project, but we hope it's very sort of tangible, and that you can feel that you are doing something useful, and that will motivate you in week 4 to really put in the time, schedule the time, and then follow through to to submit a final project that you can be proud of. Last but not least, I'll tell you, we covered this very early on, but there is, let me see, we are going to ask, or actually Norwegian Red Cross is going to ask at the end of week 4, we'll be asking for your publishing agreement. So don't be scared by that. If there are any sensitive issues whatsoever, you can trust Norwegian Red Cross to understand that. So this is Fred, and of course others and his colleagues. And so you will have three options. You can say, yes, I agree to sort of share this with Norwegian Red Cross. You can say no, and that's fine too. There won't be any consequences. It has nothing to do with certification. Or you can say, I'd like to discuss. If there are issues that require discussion, if there's something you'd want to clean up or something that you would need to get your organization's consent before it could be shareable. So there is that option. If you realize that this time around the work you've done, you don't feel it's ready for sharing with anybody, but that it's hopefully it's still been helpful to you, that is okay too. We understand that. So and there's another chance coming up in September to actually repeat to work on a new project actually similar to the one in the October 2016 course. So I hope that is helpful. Let me turn your mics back on, see if there are any questions. I haven't seen any hands raised or comments other than to tell me that my sound was out. Let me just quickly repeat. And so in week 4 you'll be getting reviews. So first you have to go back and find your own work in Creator, in Works, and then you'll be going to feedback, and you'll first be looking at so it's feedback, reviews, results. You'll be looking at the results for the version that you submitted. There may be other versions, so you want to watch out for that. And then you can look at the aggregate results. And then you can look at each of your reviewers' comments, and that's what you want to spend time on first. And then step 2 is think through what is your action plan, what are the things you're going to fix, improve, how are you going to do it, make sure you've got time scheduled. And then step 3 is actually digging back into your project and making whatever changes, improvements, amends, corrections, deletions, whatever it takes to improve your project, both in line with what your reviewers have told you, what you've been learning in the community, or on your own by looking at other people's work. Radu says, can I get 2 different peer reviews? Only one of the 3 that I have received are in English. I have finished the one. Okay, yes, Radu, we're fixing these issues. Some people started their project in the wrong language despite explicit instructions to avoid that. So yes, definitely, we'll be looking at who got so you should expect those reviews probably tomorrow morning. And apologies because that will give you less time. So if you do need a little bit more time, this weekend, for example, to complete those reviews that are being assigned late, that is understandable, Radu. So I think, yeah, any other questions? Yeah, you're very welcome. Just let us know. But do consider that it's actually really unfair for people who have done all 3 of their reviews and they only receive 1. That's just not right. So what we're going to do, we may have to, if people don't start sort of waking up and completing and submitting reviews, we're going to have to ask for volunteers, and we'll be doing that in the community. And then people who volunteer will look at the quality of the reviews they've been submitting. We're not going to just let people loose if they haven't been doing the working, sort of giving quality inputs and feedback. And then we'll invite we'll select and invite volunteers to perform additional reviews, and that's really an important part and a way of sort of just owning up to your colleagues. And last year, I can tell you in October, yes, we had a gap where there's a small group of people who submitted a project but then did nothing further, somehow felt that they were done. And there was an amazing so a great number of people who responded to the call to perform additional reviews. Thank you, Radu, you're offering to volunteer. Assuming I'm not sufficiently busy with work. That's also realistic, I understand that. And this is, there are many reasons for how people do in an exercise like this. Not everybody makes it. Some have legitimate reasons. Some, we're expecting a kind of course where you just show up and you get a certificate at the end. That's not what this is about. I hope that if you're holding on. If you're still here, we're hoping it's because you're finding it to be a productive and useful process. So get cracking, please, with these with the peer reviews. If you haven't completed them already, we'll fix individual problems. Reach out to us. We're trying to be very careful to respond to everyone's issues. There are very few issues, in fact, so we should be able to respond quickly. And good luck with the. I hope you enjoy the process. And Saturday morning, for those of you who want to get a head start, as many of you did last weekend, you'll find the results of the reviews. Now, note that if you only get one review, additional reviews may come in within the successive days, so you'll have to keep checking in the community. And in week 4, we're also going to have another activity, which will be about sharing standard operating procedures and which just around security risks, and also sharing pictures of your work. So your equipment, your ambulance, your crew, we really want to do something a bit social ahead of the commencement event, which will be happening on the 12th of July. And next week's sessions, I do want to call for you to come in and support Michael, who will be facilitating this group discussion for the first time. Very experienced critical care paramedic from the UK, currently working in Lebanon. So hope you'll we'll see what if you can show your support by attending and participating in the discussion. That would be much appreciated. So that's it. I'm going to unmute you all and get to do and say whatever you want. Thank you for staying for the entire session. Great to see a large a large group, and look forward to seeing those peer reviews come in.
All right, thanks, man.